People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. There isn't much to speak about in relation to Arsenal or the Premier League or anything really, but we might as well cover some stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure current themes you're seeing is Project Restart and many different plans in relation to getting our football season going. Obviously, I'll do it in another vid, but at academy level, I'm pretty sure it's been suspended. And yeah, there's a bit of oohing and ahhing and all of these sort of things. So we'll never know what's going to happen. Transfer market, if football doesn't know how it's going to react, how does the transfer market is going to react? Because on one hand, I do believe it's going to be business as usual. You know, you're seeing Neymar linked with moves and players along that standard, which typically carry high price tags. But by the same logic, you're seeing clubs allegedly losing money. So how much can they afford to renew big contracts, give players that are coming into their club big contracts, or make big money purchases? It may be a lot of players who had their heart set on a move. You know, obviously it's not going to happen and they have to sit on their hands for another year or so. And it's a delicate time, especially for those at the lower league levels and actually academy, because it's all good when you're, you know, Reece Nelson and Kylian Mbappe and Sancho and stuff. There's probably second-year scholars that were fighting to get us a pro deal, and you know the club might say, you know, you're not getting a pro now, and you know all the other clubs are in similar situations. So it's even getting released in the worst is one of the worst things that could happen. But especially in this climate, we don't know how it's going to react. Sorry for having this on, people. Clearly, I was still listening to Vibes Cartel and all them thing there. Gaza forever, as you know. That's one Ghana, next one Barn. But moving forward, people, with football. Mesut Ozil, now again, that name either fills you with happiness or makes you very angry. But you know, someone that's criticised for money on his contract, someone that's seen as, oh, why didn't you take the cut, blah blah blah. Listen, there's cause to take that cut, there's cause not to. But one thing you can't call him is a money grabber, because he does a lot for charity. And here he is again, people. Mesut Ozil has donated 713,000 Turkish liras to the Turkish Red Crescent, for an aid campaign, 2,000 food packages to families in Turkey and Syria, plus 90,000 iftar packages, which I'm not Muslim, obviously, so forgive me if I haven't got this spot on, but that's after, obviously, Muslim people are fasting, and I've been fasting as well, just to see what it's like, but they've been fasting. Obviously, this is when you break your fast in the evening. So obviously, he's supplying food for people to break their fasts and whatnot. And in line with obviously Ramadan and stuff, it's about sympathizing with your fellow man. You know, really understanding that you're not better than anyone else. So it's lovely to see people will be giving food, and he's obviously extending this campaign to Somalia as well. So you know, he's helping Turkey, he's helping Somalia, he's helped Sierra Leone, he's done got a thing in Ghana, done a couple other things. It doesn't matter what country. It's nice to see he's on this philanthropy thing, because Mesut Ozil, this probably touches him, because obviously of the descendants of immigrants, he probably knows how tough it is. You go and watch, there's a certain documentary on YouTube. Ozil was talking about his poverty growing up, how, you know, there wasn't much space for him and his family members, and how football in the cages was the only delight really that they got, because they didn't have money. So again, it's completely different, but you know, he can sympathise with people. Moving away from that and keeping up the theme with creative players, Mkhitaryan. 1 minute he's signing for Roma, 1 minute he's not, 1 minute we're trying to swap deals and things like that. Before, we've previously heard that his agent or him or Roma, whoever, wants him to sign a new deal at Arsenal, extending his deal by another year. The latest report more or less is saying that Roma want Mickey to extend his contract with Arsenal for another year until 2022, so they can loan him out, so they can loan him again. Arsenal against the idea of renewal of Mkhitaryan's contract for one more season, due to a clause in his contract that forces the club to increase his wages from 150 per week to 250k per week should the optional year be activated. So I assume he's got another year left on his deal in terms it can be activated, and it's a difficult one, because for Arsenal it doesn't make sense. We don't know. Listen, if Arteta turned around and said he wants to use Mkhitaryan and he gets him playing well, cool. But you know, we've got delicate wages. We don't know who's staying, who's going. It doesn't make sense to make it even worse, sort of thing. Mkhitaryan, in terms of not to be ageist, but longevity wise, he hasn't got long, so we might as well move him on. You hear he's happy playing in Roma with the team, way of life. You know, the coach speaks highly of him. So if they can come to a renewal, it should happen. Obviously for Roma, that would be perfect for them to get another loan spell, because say they put this outlay on this player, considering as well the coronavirus, which could affect financial markets, they pay even more of an outlay considering his age, and give him a deal and he doesn't bang, they're in trouble. For Arsenal, we're laughing. So that makes sense. For Arsenal, obviously, it'd be nothing short of stupidity to give him a new deal. You know, you're hearing that we want 20. The latest is I saw today is we want 20. They're giving us 10. For me, let's meet in the middle at 15. Or I'll just take the 10 off them, obviously. Obviously, I'd like 20 for Mkhitaryan. I think 20 is about fair. But more important than that to a degree is the wages. You free up some way. We need to free up wages. And to be fair with you, there's not too many players. You know, Aubameyang and Saka, if they're up for sale, out of all the contract stuff, people are gonna have interest. I don't imagine. Obviously, every player is gonna have an interested party, but I don't imagine people are gonna be lining up for Socrates, David Luiz on paper because of his contract, regardless of talk of a renewal. Socrates and the rest of them. No disrespect, Mustafi, no disrespect to them. So we've got to do things to make it attractive to them. You know, take the 10 million on Mkhitaryan. Mustafi, again, you know, we could keep him for another year, especially if we can't bring a centre back in with our problems, whether I agree with that or not. But the devil's advocate, there's never been a better time to sell someone like Mustafi because he's finally looking like the centre half that we thought we was getting from Valencia. A club might have looked at him and said, you know what, Mustafi's been playing well under Arteta. Maybe this is what he's about now. You know, he's got a year left. Let's give him a 10, 15 and see what happens. Now, Arsenal would obviously make a significant loss, but you moved away a player with 1 year left. One player who I'd be amazed, you know, I've seen El Nene sign a new deal, so I don't, and Jenkins, since I don't know, but I'd be amazed if he was given a new deal. Not to just target Mustafi, but the point is we need to get rid of some players and free up wages. And a part of me does feel, obviously we can sign players without selling people technically, but I think we need to sort out, you know, who is going and who's coming before we can make a move. And you already know, people, our wage budget our wage structure is seriously under threat. And obviously with the issues facing everybody globally, it's put this more to highlight sort of thing. So yeah, it's nice to see allegedly Arsenal are against that, and this was from at the AFC Bell, and he's, you know, it's AFC Bell, Mr. Arsenic, IT Arsenal. There's a couple good Twitter accounts, Gruch, I can never say his name, Gruich or whatever, but there's, you know, these, I don't think these lot sleep in terms of covering Arsenal news. Now, we've been linked with midfielder Papa Gueye, and it might not be over. Now, you've seen Watford announce his signing and whatnot, and you know he's gone to the wrong club that's based at London Coley, the 21-year-old centre midfielder. But allegedly, if you listen to his lawyer/agent's comments, I don't know if he's been badly advised or not, but they're saying regardless of what Watford's announced and whatnot, it is what it is. Now, I was doing some digging last night and I don't have it all to hand, but some reports go on to claim he's got a pre-contract agreement because of his contract expiring with a couple of clubs. It didn't specify, so who knows, people. It does, when things like that happen, it does mean I do start to think maybe your people around you are kind of not got your best interests at heart, or they're not doing things in the correct protocol, people. Apparently, based on what I've caught, it said it was not Gueye's choice to join Watford. It was his agent's former agent's desire. The player is willing to look at playing elsewhere, regardless of Watford's stance. And apparently his lawyer said, I've tried to discuss with Watford and to resolve some elements which could appear as issues or irregularities, but Watford have said no, that the contract is regular and that Papa Gueye will be there for next season. Now, I think he'll be at Watford for what it's meant, but, you know, you could see how they could get legal issues, because if I'm Watford, you know, you're going to court and saying, yo, he signed the deal. He needs to honour that he signed it, and if not, you know, we're going to need even a small compensation for being inconvenienced. Obviously, for Papa, again, you know, I can't blame him for fielding options. He's been linked with Arsenal, he's been linked with United, he's been linked with City, he's been linked with Watford, who's a good option. You know, get your feet down, play football in the Premier League, other things can happen for you, and Watford could make a nice profit if he becomes decent. I don't blame him for sitting on his hands, but, you know, it is a bit of a weird one. Apparently, his agent has said Guy himself is confused. This is very important, because 1 month ago, Guy decided to fire his agent and put himself in charge as his lawyer, and put myself in charge as his lawyer, not as an agent, to try and resolve this issue and finalise his employment contract. So maybe he does want to stay at Watford, but he's not happy with the terms. I don't know, but it's just one big model, really. It is thought that the player does not feel the current conditions proposed by Watford are acceptable and will consider looking elsewhere if an agreement cannot be reached. So yeah, you put the money on the table, you nice him in terms of whatever he wants, whether it's years on his deal, whether it's bonuses, clauses, weekly wage. Clearly, if he does that, he'll sign for Watford. And again, Watford's a good club to get your feet wet in the Premier League, in my opinion. In fact, there's a feeling that he has been pushing towards joining the Hertfordshire club rather than him jumping at the chance. Sorry, he's been pushed. I'm moving like I can't read, so it feels like he's been pushed there. Pap has never even chosen Watford Bakare Sanogo had discussed with Watford and has negotiated the contract which was signed. There are many clubs interested in him in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, especially in France. So again, he might want to stay in France. Who knows? This could be calling agents bluff. I mean, they could have every intention of signing for Watford, but you know, they want Watford to throw a few more zeros, so they're kind of threatening court, threatening that there's no legal agreement, threatening that there's other clubs interested. This might make Watford want to get the deal done quicker. Pardon me, I don't know. Finally, it is clear that on the player side there is no recognition that Papagay is officially a Watford player, with Bovis describing the announcement as a mistake. He confirms that a legal battle could be a last resort if a resolution cannot be reached mutually. So we'll see what happens in that regards. Now, I'm all sure you've heard the news in relation to the France League. It's been suspended. I believe William Saliba is eligible to train at Arsenal, folks. But in relation to actually playing for the club, he's eligible to play until next season, because technically he's registered at St Etienne until June. It sucks because, you know, he was having a decent year. He had some good moments, had some bad moments as a player. You know, you look at the Mets game, you look at the couple penalties he's given away, flat-footed against Bordeaux. But he's a young 18 turning 19-year-old. This was to happen, and this was his second year as a professional footballer, so this was somewhat becoming a man. You know, I'm going to Arsenal at the end of the season, but I want to help the club that's giving me something, St Etienne. And you know, they had a cup final to look forward to, the first in his career. Hopefully it's the first of many. You know, it would have been a tough ask. I think they had PSG in the final. I could be wrong on that. They could be out. I'm not too sure, but you know, imagine they won. It would have been the perfect send-off. You know, I'm going to do my thing now, but I've given a trophy, and obviously that would have given him a taste for more. But it hasn't happened. Now for us, all I can hope for, at least for in Saliba's case, you know, he can train. Our 23s league is suspended, but I'd imagine, again, I can't, it doesn't make sense, but if the Premier League gets playing and they do whatever protocol the Premier League has, then to a degree, I think the academy can do it in that, you know, I'm not saying we're going to have our league, but surely Arsenal versus Chelsea, within the same context of what, assuming the senior game goes, we can play a little friendly, so which maybe that could be something for Saliba to keep his fitness up and other players and things. At least Saliba can be under the eye, if we can get back to normal, under Arteta, learning what Arteta wants, training with Arteta, getting used to his teammates. You hear every time he's come to Arsenal during his loan spurt at St Etienne, he's done work on his physical stuff. Maybe that's in relation to a couple injuries he's been carrying. I don't know. But yeah, man, he's eligible to play at least until next season, but at least he can train and things, which, yeah, man, he can do his thing. And to be honest, it's not a blessing because there's no substitute for playing, but in terms of being a young guy moving from France to London, you know, he can use this to acclimatise himself and, you know, get to know his teammates and things like. Again, just assuming everybody seems to be close in the squad, but you could imagine Saliba, assuming them and they're here next year, you could imagine him, Pepe, Guendouzi, Laka, Aubameyang, you know, a couple other names I'm missing out, but this will more or less be the squad, be who he'd probably chill with. Obviously everybody chills with everybody and things like that, but you'd imagine the French lads would take him under their wing for obvious reasons, and whatnot. And obviously, you know, I'd like to see him get close with David Luiz, because we don't know the partnership for next season. But, you know, David Luiz is someone that coaches the team more or less, not coaches like Arteta, but you can see in the game, being at the Emirates, he's always coaching and telling people what to do and things. He's a big help for Saka being at games, him and Xhaka especially, but more so Luiz. Big help for Saka. Obviously, you hear what he's done for Martinelli. I'm not too sure on the language barrier. I'd assume David Luiz has a good level of French, so again, they could get something going, and that could be the partnership, experience and old, experience and young, you know, two ball-playing centre-halves. Obviously, Maurice might be signed permanently, and you're hearing that we won't get another centre-half. It'll be Marie and Suarez, so I don't know what to believe, but just in terms of acclimatising, I said it right? Acclimatising. Getting to grips with his environment, his new environment, people, it would be decent. I actually don't know if you can see my head. Like it's just dawned on me, so I apologise for such, people. But yeah, moving away from that, that's where it is in relation to that. Moving away from Saliba, so yeah, man, hopefully Saliba can get his Arsenal career going. It is what it is. Apparently, AS has said Arsenal have intensified their efforts to sign Cesar Gelabert, the Real Madrid lad, I can't say his name, despite the player being close to signing a contract extension with Real Madrid. Mikel Arteta is a big fan, so if he is a big fan, I want to get that done, but it is what a lot of us expected, potentially Arsenal United and a lot of other teams linked with him being used to get a contract renewal, because you hear he's described as the jewel of the Real Madrid Castilla, someone with a lot of potential, someone that they can see breaking through. Whether that happens is another story, but that's just what you read online. Now, the same old recycled rumours in relation to Lacazette and Partey moving to both clubs respectively have reared its head. But firstly, in relation to Lacazette, I actually don't think he'll fit in at Atletico for what it's worth, excluding being good technically. But Atletico are working on two main attacking fronts for the upcoming transfer window, Cavani and Lacazette. Cavani is liked by Simeone and is considered as a plan A, whereas Lacazette is somewhat a plan B. And that's what I said in a previous video, and you lot agreed and commented and also said it. You're hearing that Atletico Madrid are under financial problems away from this Corona stuff, and more or less every player is for sale. Why would they spend a big outlay on two strikers? Because to bring in Cavani, you know, it's a free transfer and it's a good signing, but you're going to have to give him a respectable deal. Lacazette to a similar degree, considering he's 28, you're going to have to shell out a transfer fee if it is not a swap, and give him a decent deal. And in terms of length, does it make sense to spend that outlay on two strikers who in the next couple of years might not be around? Only Atletico can answer that, really and truly. And it wouldn't make sense. It would make sense to bring in two strikers, but you wouldn't imagine that both of them are going to happen. And for Lacazette's case, you run the risk of, like with Aubameyang, somewhat being the number 2 striker and whatnot. And I think Lacazette is decent, but I don't think he's pressing. I don't think he suits the pressing game. I don't think he suits the structure. Again, I think he will go there and be good because he's a good striker and he'll score goals, but I don't think it's necessarily the best fit. And you have heard he's spoken to Griezmann and Thomas Lemar, probably gets mixed responses in relation to what it's like being at Atletico Madrid. So we'll have to see. Apparently, La Razón ES has said a Lacazette/Partey swap could be on the cards, as Atletico like the profile of the Frenchman and have him amongst their favourite candidates to strengthen their offensive line next season. So he is on the list to some degree. Apparently, Atletico are aware of Partey's intention to listen to offers from Arsenal and Man United, who are willing to make efforts to sign him this summer. You have also heard that apparently they've put an offer on the table to triple his salary, so we'll see how that goes. I think he signs a new renewal, but you know me, people, I'm never optimistic about Arsenal signing anyone. Didn't think Pepe was coming, didn't think Lacazette was coming, didn't actually think Aubameyang was landing as well, and it happened. So if it happens for us, of course I'm for it, but until it's yellow bar on Sky Sports or announced on Arsenal.com, I don't allow my mind to flirt between the prospects, because imagine Partey in that midfield. It sounds attractive, innit? Don't want to flirt with that prospect. But it is what it is in that regards, people. I mean, you have heard there is going to be a bit more creativity in the market this summer. There's going to be more swap deals and things of that nature. So we're going to have to see what happens in that regards. But, you know, if Lacazette wants to leave, if we don't want to give Lacazette a new deal who's contracted until 2022, it is what it is in that regards. The Mirror has claimed... Spurs have been linked with Marcel Sabitzer for a while, but the Mirror claim Tottenham aren't the only admirers of Marcel Sabitzer. Arsenal have also taken a shine to the midfielder, and once football resumes, a bidding war looks set to commence between the bitter rivals. You know, it's the Mirror. Not too sure of how valid them claims are, but don't shoot the messenger, people. According to the same paper, Barcelona are willing to sell or loan out Antoine Griezmann, Luis Suarez, Coutinho, Ousmane Dembele, Ivan Rakitic, Arturo Vidal, Samuel Titi, Nelson Semedo, and Sergio Roberto to raise funds. You might as well throw in Arthur, because these are names you've seen linked with moves away. Barca allegedly have financial issues and have to raise funds if they're going to bring in Neymar and these lot here. Semedo seems to be playing, and I would keep him. I think he's underrated. I would love him at Arsenal. I mean, you know, that's offer Hector Bellerin and Hector Bellerin for Semedo. I don't know if they're on that, but that's something I would do. Sergio Roberto seems to be a decent right back / midfield squad option. Don't think he's sold. Coutinho, 1 minute, they want to give him another chance. Next minute, he's sold. And again, you know, the outlet hasn't worked out. He's someone that potentially will be sold on. Suarez is coming to the end of his career. I don't think they're going to push him out the door, but that's probably why his name's been thrown in there, allegedly. Griezmann, it hasn't quite worked out. Dembele, it'd be best to describe this Barcelona time as inconsistent or inconsistencies, because he gets well, playing well, then he gets injured, or there's good and bad moments. Out of all of them, I'd love him the most, but I don't think it's going to happen. Even Rakitic, someone that probably is going to leave the club. You know, there's a lot of midfielders on the book. He's someone that will probably be sold. Probably they tried to move him on last summer. I don't know. He's been a terrific serviceman. Vidal obviously could be sold to raise funds. Umtiti's been linked with Arsenal and United since Wade, so we'll have to see what happens in that regards. Moving away from that though, people, and apparently Manchester United are close to finalising a deal for Sunderland youngster Joe Hugel. Why that's of relevance is because the men, which I believe is the Manchester Evening News acronym, understands United have been working on a 300,000 move for Hugel, who is 16, in recent months, and a thought of interest/competition from Leeds, Wolves, Tottenham, Arsenal and German clubs also expressed an interest, although they did not receive an offer. And obviously I'd imagine we're looking at them because you've got, is it Bamba? He's on loan. Could be wrong, but they've got a young lad that they loaned to South Shields, I believe, midfield lad, plays for England as well, can never pronounce his name. We obviously beat United to sign in, who was a Man United fan, Sam Greenwood. So it's to be expected, and obviously Sunderland are in serious financial issues, so you know it could make a few bob selling him for 300,000. Obviously that's not going to change everything, but that's a lot of money to a club that needs money allegedly. And for him, obviously he goes to a Cat A club, he joins a more competitive environment. Obviously, I'm sure he wants to make it at United, but he needs to recognise there's a lot of talent. So at worst comes to worst, training with better coaches, training in better facilities, training to a better standard, training into an environment where, you know, at Sunderland, he probably was a big fish in a small pond, similar to Greenwood. You come to Arsenal and United, being a good player, you know, that's what got you through the door. It's like being a young player at Chelsea and City. You know, you being a wonder kid or being great technically, it's not special anymore if the whole room is that. That's what got you in the door. It's special if you come play with us and whatnot, but you're just a normal sort of person sort of thing. So that's something they should relish. And he turned 17 in October, so what, he's a first-year scholar. He'll probably be given assurances of a pro deal when he does turn 17 for a couple of years. So it is decent. Never watched him, don't know nothing about him, people, but he does sound decent, you know. He could be named among the academy intake of United for next season, and apparently he scored a hat-trick in Sunderland for Sunderland in the FA Youth Cup, and has also netted a brace on his under-23s debut. So he's a young lad doing quite well. United, I mean, if he doesn't make it there, you sell profit, or as harsh as football is, yeah, people might say he stay at Sunderland, you can make it, and it's true. United might look at it as, you know, it's 300,000. We're $1 billion football club sort of thing. You know, we're spending 100 million or so on Pogba, but this isn't nothing. If he doesn't make it, it is what it is. So for players, this is why I always say, when young players make these moves, make sure you leave that club, whether you make it there or not, you leave it a 10 times better player. Physically, tactically, technically, you know, mindset, everything, people. Because that's what a lot of people look at when man make these jumps to clubs and say, oh, I never made it there. It's an L. It's not always. Sometimes man make these moves to these clubs to develop. And I'm not saying this is United's case, but it does happen with United, Arsenal, many other teams. It is what it is. How many of you have said you got a job offer, but it's not really a job offer you want, or at a company you want to be long term, but you can learn skills there? You say, you know what, I'm going to go there, get my experience, wet my feet in the ocean there, learn what I can, and then I'm going to get out and join this company where it's the big boy thing, do you get? Or that's something else I want to do. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards, people. We really have to see. Mislintat has been speaking as well, people. Nothing to do with Arsenal, but in relation to his first year as sporting director at Stuttgart. He has said, in relation to his first year, he said, it's been a very eventful year with relegation, the resignation of the president, coaching changes, and the current coronavirus. We've also built a lot of things and taken measures so that we can usher in better times. He was asked about his decision to go to Stuttgart. He said, after my spells at Borussia Dortmund and Arsenal, there was one decisive factor in my decision. When you've come from two clubs with traditions like those, and you have a choice, then you want to go to another well-established club. When our stadium is full and the fans really go for it, it's just as intense as in Dortmund and London. It doesn't feel like you're in the second division at all. That's the heart speaking. The head says that we're in a different competition and have to pursue different players in the transfer market. We're trying our best to bring success back to the future. He was then asked on what it's like working with the CEO. He said, the understanding between us is absolutely excellent. Thomas gave me freedom in my responsibilities from the start. He has the great ability to recognise the strengths of people around them and utilise them accordingly. And Mislintat can't be begrudged. Clearly he wanted to leave because he felt he could make that step up to sporting director or something. For whatever reason, it didn't happen at Arsenal. On top of probably clashing with transfer looks and whatnot, he kept it moving. For me, it was a bit of a pill to swallow, losing someone of Mislintat's expertise, but especially so early. But it is what it is. He was then asked on sorry, people. He's asked on his sporting objective. He said, "We're on track at the moment in second place. If we manage to hold on to our position and get automatic promotion, then we've done a very good job." On the current situation, he was asked, "The whole club has reacted very well to the crisis and found a good way of dealing with the current situation. That started with the staff waiving a percentage of their salaries, and the team have made a further contribution with their wonderful campaign for helpers in and around Stuttgart, which was a great gesture." When asked on, the continuation of the current season, he said, "I think it's our right and duty to fight for our existence. From a financial perspective, it's vital that the league should continue and remaining matches be played. Of course, we'd prefer to play in front of fans, but unfortunately, the realistic scenario is that games will be held without spectators." And you have heard, a lot of clubs in Germany will suffer without playing, and you have heard Germany have pushed it back, but they were planning to not only televise all games but get the league back going again, which was met with protests and backlash. And you even had some normal fans turning up at training grounds in white scarves and things, protesting it, and pretending to be ghost fans. Wearing white sleeves and white suits doesn't scare anybody, does it? But yeah, that's all I've got to speak about, people. So I'm not going to bore you with anything more. We've already been here for time. People, it's always a pleasure. DG.